Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another 21st Century Renaissance and another open interest newsletter breakdown on GameStop. I'm your host, Dr. Michael LoPiano, and today we are returning to take a look at GameStop in this somewhat tight, somewhat illiquid lead up to OPEX period, thinking about what this might mean for our price action this week, what this has meant thus far, kind of coming into this week, and we'll also continue along with our reading in the book of Genesis, the book of Becoming, as we read really the meat of this central episode in the life of Noah. So that is where we will start today before we go on to our financial discussion. And we are picking up today, let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see where I am. We are picking up today right in the midst of the coming of this great flood. Right. So one of the things we talked about, especially last week, was the circumstances as they are presented. Right. The fall of man, the descent of man into a world of violence, a world of mistrust, and a world where the desires of mankind, that is specifically mankind, are oriented toward the accumulation, essentially, of infinite sexual partners. That is the world that has come from the line of Cain. That is the world that comes from the elder lineage of the surviving sons of Adam. Of course, also the eldest, right? So the son that makes the proper sacrifices, let's say, is murdered. So he has no offspring, right? Cain's line descends into warfare, the production of technology, and eventually, right, polygyny, and is responsible for the infinite, collection, let's say, of wives. So it is a lifestyle of, let's say, a lifestyle of more, without consideration of the consequences. It is a means of scale, right? It is everything to scale. Cities are to scale. Technology scales man's power. And the accumulation of wives allows one man to scale, let's say, how many offspring he can have, right? But of course, as you scale, you also divide in certain ways. And the world that is created is a world, let's say, certainly not too far to say it is a loveless world, right? A world of violence, of jealousy, of ambition, of the sort. It's the power path, let's say, right? The line of Seth, which comes down to Noah, is not such a line, right? It is not. It is a path of measured scale, something like patient scale, something of the sort of scaling, but without sacrificing integrity. And some people say integrity, and they mean good, right? We have lots of words that we use in our modern vocabulary today that largely people just mean good, right? They're just variations that people use on the word good. I do not say the word integrity insofar as I mean good. I mean, integrity to a certain extent is good, but that is not the use that I'm meaning for here. I'm meaning something like, right, to say that a structure is integral means that it is stable unto itself. It is well-founded. It has a strong base. It is balanced. It is proportionate. It operates within a predetermined and appropriate series of limits and boundaries. This is what I mean by integral. And the property of being integral is integrity. So that's what I mean, right? So it's something like Cain's lineage it's almost cancerous, right? It's about multiplication without heed for integrity. in the sense of being well-founded, right? It is scale for the sake of scale. Something like we do today, right? I mean, the modernist approach to the world is the way of living in many ways akin to Cain, right? Scale as much as possible. The technocratic perspective is technology, faster, better, as much as possible, scale it. It does not matter. Just keep pushing it. Faster is better. The singularity, do the singularity, right? The more powerful, the more power we can agglomerate as quickly as possible, the better, right? This is the Wall Street approach to money. Just accumulate as much money as fast as possible, harvest as much capital as possible, as quickly as possible, at as great a scale as possible, compounding as much as possible, right? This is the way of Cain, right? This is sort of sketched out in the lineage of Cain. But the lineage of Noah does not sacrifice growth, right? Because Noah does follow God's command to be fruitful and multiply. Noah does this in a measured fashion, however, right? Noah has one wife, and by his one wife, he has 3 sons. They have wives. He also shows evidence of being a shepherd because animals are placed within his care. So Noah embodies the natural state of being in the world. Noah embodies the original state of man that creation willed for man, that God willed for man through creation, something like that. That's the claim of Genesis. He is as close to Adam as we can get, as close to what should have been. And God elects, according to the book of Genesis, to attempt to regrow the human race from the line of Noah. So this whole thing, this whole episode of the flood, of this catastrophe, is to obliterate the line of Cain, to try to get that pattern of being off of the earth. And God deems that Noah is the way forward with this. So accordingly, because Noah has structured his life correctly, soundly, integrally, right? It is a gainful life. It is a life of being creative and multiplying, but it is one that is done at a measured pace. It is one that is done in its proper proportion, not scaling infinitely. And as a result, he's able to receive a vision from God. And the vision tells him, right, go ahead and build this ark. Go ahead and build this. Here's your way out of this. Here's how you get out of this. Something really bad is coming. But because you've built everything well, you have the revelation of it. Not others, right? Those who live the way of Cain have no revelation of this. But those who live in such a wise as Noah do receive revelation. At least Noah receives revelation because he lives in such wise. So let's take a look at how this episode unfolds here. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, that is, in groups of 7, the male and his female. And of beasts that are not clean by 2, the male and his female. Clean beasts, 7. Unclean beasts, 2. The fowls also of the air by 7s, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according unto all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him into the ark, because of the waters of the flood. of clean beasts, and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and of everything that creepeth upon the earth, there went into and to unto Noah into the ark the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. It came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all of the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days, 40 nights. In the self same day entered Noah, and Shem, and Ham, and Japheth, and the sons of Noah, Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them, unto the ark. They, and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, every fowl after his kind, every bird of every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they went in male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him. And the Lord shut him in. So we have what this will look like, right? There is an apportionment by which life will be preserved. Noah is to be, not only has he proven himself as a great shepherd of his own kind, but he is to be something of an arch, different than ark, arch shepherd of all living things, right? A sort of father of all that has life. And so this really is how to think of Noah, right? To think of him as a shepherd, to think of him as a good husband, to think of him as a father, to think of him as a second Adam, perhaps as an Adam to redeem the son of Adam, something like that. So just as Adam's sin brings about death, Noah becomes a preserver of life. And as a result of his shepherding, will preserve life on earth. That without his way of living, his way of being in the world, there would, in essence, be no life. That's the claim that seems to be made here in these Genesis stories, that this way of being is world redeeming, that it is life preserving, and that it is uniquely positioned within the structure of creation to have direct communication with God. Those 3 things. So what this story, if you were to model this character, right, with your life, the stipulation is that under similar attendant circumstances, you yourself living as such become a progenitor of life, a preserver of life, a world redeemer, and you are in a position to have special communication with God, living as such. That Noah historically was selected for this role in the story of creation, in the history of creation, by God, because he lived in this way. So if you're the sort of person, let's say, who says, well, either I know something terrible is around the corner, something bad may be coming in our world, or you say, well, I don't know whether there's something bad coming, but there always could be. There could be, right? Maybe there's a collapse in financial markets. Maybe it's war and rumors of war. Maybe it's an end. Maybe it's the fertility crisis, something like that. All these different things, whatever it is. If you wish, let's say, to be in the role of someone who can do something about this, right? Someone who is positioned to receive guidance on what to do to not only preserve thyself in this context, but also act as preserver, guide, guardian, shepherd, redeemer for others, that the first thing that you should do, what you should do, is build a life that looks like Noah's. That's the suggestion. You should aim to structure your family integrally. Number one, you should aim to have a family. You should structure a family. But number two, you should aim to structure it integrally. You should look to the future of your project. You should aim, of course, to be fruitful and multiply in a patient, perhaps carefully delineated way, not at infinite scale, such that it would divide you beyond your ability to invest properly in creation. Do those things. Right? If you're worried about something, work towards that. And something like the voice of God will come to you and tell you exactly what you need to do to go forward. And then once the voice of God does, do that. Something I think about a lot. Something I think about a lot. I mean, that's kind of why I'm doing this stuff, right? It's why I got involved in GameStop. I don't know how else to describe it except the voice of God said, go tell people about this. Why am I reading from the Bible now? Because God told me to do that too. In a certain sense, right? A voice cries out to you from the structure of creation. Something like that. And it beckons you to follow very specific instructions. So, something to consider. Let's take a look at everybody's favorite stonk. Certainly my favorite stonk. Hopefully it's your favorite stonk too. So we're taking a look, crabbing into OPEX. We got our little Exto trader friend back. Some things to take a look at. Thanks go out today on our gratitude section of things. Dude McStud once again sponsoring today's video and an article, as well as to our monthly supporters, Not Medical Advice, Kurt Lusko, Cosmotropic, Dayswag52, Cameron DeLeon, Drew Krantz, and Hey Lucky's aka Faithless Looter. Interesting stuff. I mean, we haven't seen this overnight guy come up for a bit. Very interesting to see 24.49. That kind of, taking a look, I guess we can skip to the end. But taking a look at what we do see from our GEX, right? We do have 20. This is just on the GME chain, but it's very interesting on the GME1 chain. But we do have, it's uncommon to see 2450. So I don't know why, but we have a lot of calls at 2450. We do not typically have strikes. Our half strikes are not, number one, they weren't all on the board until very, very recently. They were added really recently. But yeah, we don't typically see that, and it's very large. We have over 10,000 contracts. So we've got this big block of, we've got 24s, 24 and a halfs, 25s. There's nearly as much put OI here and put GEX at the 24 strike that we have call GEX. So this is about balanced out. So what that means is even though we have this many calls here OI-wise, GEX-wise, it's really this kind of composite 24, 5, 25, at least on the GME chain. And then if we look at kind of our composite OI, right, I mean, a lot of it's over there on the GME1 chain. There's a lot at 25, 26 or 27,000 calls. So really, once you add that in, 25 is the big overhead mark. But it's very interesting to see that 2450 strike also kind of stand out into this week. So I mentioned this over on Twitter. I know I didn't. I had some health-related things to take care of Monday and Tuesday. So unfortunately, I didn't really have a chance to focus too closely on markets or get to making a video. So I appreciate everyone's patience on that. But really kind of what I affirmed over there, if you didn't have a chance to take a look at the write-up there, is kind of saying something like anticipating a finish somewhere maybe slightly above 24, something like that. drive that put position out of the money, make those calls not worth very much. Maybe it's like a 23.98 kind of situation, but certainly below 24.50. That's more or less what I'm looking at heading into OPEX. And we can see that with our max pain strikes too, 17 and 24, both at $24. More or less, that seems like, right, this seems like an opportunity for institutions to go ahead to position themselves ahead of, to kind of move around, say, interest rate swaps, to get prepared, say, to reposition themselves, because we do, it's largely expected we're getting an interest rate cut. It's basically guaranteed going into the end of October. And October 29th this year, Fed meeting happens to be on National Cat Day. So I would not be surprised to see another little run up here. Maybe kind of capping out at something like 26, 27, heading up to those, to that, that kind of bracket that represents the entry price for shorts with respect to the convertible bonds. So we kind of have the the pricing on the convertible bonds back here right, we kind of gap down around 27.50-ish, right? And we can see, right? So let me bring up a different chart here. Get this moving in. Obviously bottom finder looking very interesting, looking like we're going to start to move to the upside pretty hard soon. But so if you look at where we topped out here, it's basically right in this zone, this kind of resistance zone that, right, so the closing price of the convertible bonds, right, it runs right through price action on this day. And it also operated as a floor then during the Bitcoin offering back here. And then it operated as a ceiling, right? That's where we topped out essentially back here during this last kind of run up. So max, we head back up there unless there's something, right? So maybe we get a bullish couple of weeks, cat day, first couple of weeks in November. We get institutional filing. Then maybe we go down prior to earnings, back up with earnings. Like, I have a sense that, especially because this period was so choppy, I get the sense we're not going to do these kind of big, these longer term cycles, right? So it's maybe we get some chop introduced. So it looks something more like back here in 2023. And in fact, right, so you take a look at this, right, going in 2023, early 2023, we had shorter periodization here, right? We had these shorter moves, not these kind of bigger multi-month jobbies. And what's very interesting with Bottom Finder here is we have our highest level. In fact, it's, my word, is that high. This is our highest level on Bottom Finder basically since 2023. Now today that we've got our opening candle here, it's now larger. It's now higher than 2023, than March 2023. And now it's going all the way back to December and January, early 2023. So part of me wonders if some of what we see, right? I mean, we saw this very low price. We saw this $3. So if we bump down, can we see it? I don't even know if we can see it on TraderView. We can't see it on TradingView, but it did pop up in overnight trading on Schwab. We got a $3 transaction, which the last time, right? So to the day, 5 years to the day, the last time we actually were trading at $3. So back in October 14th, 2020, October 13th, 2020 was when this happened. So we got this $3 transaction. And part of what I wonder is right now, there's emergency like swap repositioning or bag repositioning. Something's happening derivative wise. And these runs have to, correspond, let's say, with swaps that were entered in respective years. And it's maybe something like the duration of these events maybe matches up to the duration of the price event that took place, say, to the corresponding period when these were last measured here. So maybe Bottom Finder is telling us that something that's getting processed here is maybe a swap going all the way back to either March or January of 2023, something like that. That's a bit of speculation, right? I wouldn't necessarily base any trades off of that. Not sure how to even use that information in that capacity, but something to keep in mind here. More or less, kind of what I'm thinking about as I try to anticipate price action going into these next couple weeks. So, I mean, if I'm trying to read the tea leaves from our options, thinking weekly closes aren't for the next 2 weeks. So this week, following week, probably we'll get something closing around the 24 as well. Institutions continue to reposition, but like last year, right, going into Fed rate cut related things, anticipation of that, maybe foot comes off the pedal, right? The beach ball gets let out from the hand comes off the beach ball in the water, and it starts to come up. So certainly coming out of OPEX, going into this kind of national cat day period, which may be connected to something swap-wise, certainly will be connected to something Fed watch-wise. And early November, maybe we see a little bit of fireworks. We get, of course, the reports will start coming out then. Oh, we're moving up. Oh, institutions buying. And of course, they're going to be accumulating. They will have accumulated at that point. This is now going to cover the period July, August, September. So they definitely bought in July and August. They definitely bought. So we're going to see. That's going to be cool. That's going to be cool to see. November 15th is the deadline. That will be very cool. That will be very cool to see. So very much looking forward to that. In the meantime, right, nothing's, let's say, super exciting that I can see prior to that. I will say I did have somebody from the community go ahead and reach out to me, so I just wanted to point this out. Apparently, right, so he was just asking about his ability to exercise warrants now. Like, if he wanted to do that, what would it mean? And they locked him out of his account for 60 days for asking this, for being like, I'd like to do this. This is fine. This, I don't want to. I'd like to do it. It lowers my cost basis, et cetera, et cetera. So that's fine by me. I give money directly to the company. This is great. They essentially told him, we need to check on this. We need to put your account on a review, et cetera, and locked out of his account for 60 days. So be careful out there with warrants, guys. Something funky is going on there behind the scenes. This is not financial advice. This is sort of just take some of these things potentially into account when asking questions. Asking questions about GME can lead you maybe to some surprising answers, or make certain folks behind the scenes a little bit more nervous than they'd like to be otherwise. So in any case, that's it for me today. Thank you guys, as always, for watching and listening. Good luck out there. Have a great week. We'll see you tomorrow. And let's go GME. So take care, everybody.